Hello everyone, I'm Perfy1322 and welcome to another GTA discussion video where we're going to be doing the second part of the DLC analysis for the Cunning Stunts update, and this one's going to be more focused on the update as a whole and stunt races and the creator in particular. So first up, the first thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go straight in with this just to let you know that I've talked about all the cars in the previous episode of this series. I will obviously link it in the description and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, all the cars I've already covered in the previous episode. So I'm going to talk quickly about the clothing because this again is something that we've always wanted. The race suits, the jackets with racing logos on them and things like that. It's everything that we've always wanted from a racing DLC, and it's been one of the main things as part of the racing DLC that I put forward on the Rockstar support post, is having these proper racing suits with different helmets and sponsored and things like that. And it's absolutely amazing to finally see that. That was one of the best things I think that I saw from the update, is, you know, going into the shop and putting on these race suits. It's just, yeah, it's a small thing, but it just allows us to feel loved, I guess. Feel like, you know, they know that people like to race on the game, and they're giving the racing side of things a little bit of attention. So that was great. That was all perfect to see. Now, stunt races themselves, I think they were a breath of fresh air. They were really, really good. Obviously, we've only tried the Rockstar created races most of all, and I made this point before that when you compare Rockstar created regular races to the regular races that we have now, you know, for example, the old cutting corridors and you know, downtown underground and races like that, when you compare those to proper races that we have now that the community have created, they're nothing in comparison. But I think that we might see the same sort of thing with stunt races. You know, Rockstar have made some decent stunt races, but even then, I think the community are going to create even more incredible stunt races that are so much better. But they were a breath of fresh air. They were a lot of fun doing these new stunts and these new large jumps and new tracks and all these new props that we've been racing around. They've been so much fun and such a different aspect to the game than what we used to. It made the game feel fun again, to be honest. And for me, it felt like GTA was on a significant downhill part of its life, where there just wasn't really anything fun to do anymore, and it was all the same old stuff. And this really has been a breath of fresh air, and I've really enjoyed doing some of these stunt races, and I hope to enjoy even more when we see what people create with the creator, and that's what the main focus of this video is going to be on. So it's worth mentioning the bugs and things like that, because I've heard reports that the new creator is buggy. When you're snapping props, they spin around all the time. It is also a shame that the last team standing and deathmatch creators don't get the same additions, more props, and obviously all of the props themselves. Hopefully we do see improvements to that in a future patch, but I'm just going to try and focus on the actual features and what they're like. But yeah, obviously I couldn't not mention the fact that it does seem like it is quite buggy and things like that. So onto the actual features. Now, again, as I've been saying throughout the course of the last two videos, there's hints there of the things that we've always wanted and that we've always asked for. Everything that we've ever wanted from GTA hasn't been put into this update. It's not a racing DLC in the same way that we envisaged it. There's still, you know, we still can't do multi-class racing. We still can't do open class racing. No balance of the classes or anything, you know, extensive like that. So it isn't everything that we've ever wanted, but it's a big step towards it, and it's great to see the things that we've got in here. The biggest one that stood out to me first and foremost was the ability to turn catch up off by default. That's such a huge addition, and something that we've been suggesting for about 2 years now, since, you know, probably ever since the creator came out. We've wanted the option to set catch up off by default, and I think that there is, you know, this huge development time for GTA Online that some of the suggestions that we've put forward in the past about racing in general, or the creator, or anything really, it seems to take a long time for it to make its way into the game, and a couple of years. And in this case, the turning catch-up off, that's been a very long time. But it shows that they are listening at some, they do hear what we're saying. They are listening to some degree, even if they don't necessarily agree with everything that we say, or they don't implement everything that we suggest. They are listening to some degree, and they do want to put some things in, which is what we've seen there. And it's also nice that you can turn catch-up off and it stays off. It's not just a way to set it off by default, like you can set traffic off, but people can turn it on. If you turn catch-up off in the race creator, it's not possible to turn it back on again in the lobby screen, so even better in my opinion. It's a shame that we can't have that for Slipstream as well. Like, I don't know why they'd add that for catch-up but not Slipstream, but hey, it is what it is, and I'm just happy that we can turn catch-up off on our proper racetracks if you're making proper racetracks. Now, we also got tons of race-related props, so proper signs, proper grids, tracks. It's all incredible, and these are things that, again, we've suggested. We've wanted rumble strips, for example, ever since we saw them in sort of the single player races when next gen was released. We always thought that rumble strips would make their way to the next gen content creator, but it didn't happen. We did get some race related props like tire barriers, but now we've just seen something that's so much better. Something that struck me the most was the specific racing related signs that you have. For example, the billboards with racing related advertisements on them, stuck to tire barriers, and also just the smaller signs that denote sort of the 100-meter board, 50-meter board that you see on proper racetracks, and what kind of turn is coming up and things like that. Little things like that can really be used effectively to make a track feel like a proper racing experience if used properly and given the time and attention that a track sort of deserves. So we've got tons of race related props, and they are absolutely fantastic. The one downside, I think, of the tracks themselves and the props that we have is the constant curb boosting that you can get. On the outside of these tracks, you can just go over the curbs on the outside all the time, and it gets a bit ridiculous, to be honest. And that is a downside. It would be better. And I don't think that creating tracks where you can just fall off the side is really a solution to that, because regular race tracks, they need to have some level of ability to make a mistake, run wide, lose some time, and come back on. You shouldn't just completely fall off a track and ruin your entire race for taking a 1 mile per hour too quick into a corner. So there is that little aspect there, but I'm sure that the creator community will find ways around that and find ways to make tracks not be reliant on that so much. But it is a bit annoying at the same time. But the thing that I want to say about tracks is that so far, all the tracks that I've tried, when it comes to proper racing tracks, or people trying to make proper racing tracks, is that they all just feel anemic. They feel all the same and nothing to them. Not really any originality, except in a few small instances. The vast majority of things that I've tried and looked at just aren't anything special, and I don't enjoy racing on them. We've got a flood of new tracks, but I haven't seen very many that I've liked, to be honest. And for me, recreations of real life circuits also simply do not work in GTA, and I wouldn't recommend trying to. It seems like everybody is doing that, and everybody is going to continue to try to do that, but I'm never going to get off with them. I just don't like them. They don't work in GTA. In my personal opinion, I prefer to see some originality, and I think it's going to be quite a while before we start to see some actual really good proper racing tracks from the new creator update. It's only been out for a few days, so you can't expect that we're going to see the highest levels of tracks. People are just getting used to it. People are experimenting with things. Techniques are being developed. The techniques are getting tested, and ways to create tracks are being tested within racing communities. what works stays, what doesn't work gets dropped, and it's a continuous process of doing things like that. You can't expect that we're going to see great tracks in the first week of this coming out. I mean, look at how long it took before we got some really high level tracks from the content creator as a whole. Ever since it came out, you know, the very first tracks when the content creator was released there was all sorts of things, and no blocking of lampposts and any advanced stuff that you see these days. So it is going to be a while, and I am hopeful that we're going to see some great tracks. But ultimately, I think that a mix of these new props with sort of current roads and current tracks will make the best experience. I mean, time will tell, obviously. It's impossible to say that now, but I know from a personal perspective, I intend to create stunt versions of my main racing circuits and involve the stunt props with the tracks as they are now. I'm not going to recreate my tracks in the air or anything like that, because honestly, tracks that are created in the air, they just don't have any character to them at all, and the corners are all the same. You can't really tell where you're going. A lot of them just use the props that are there as they are, without, you know, there's very few that have hairpins or proper chicanes. You can pretty much take most corners at full speed, or they all have the same type of corners, because that's the limitations that people are seeing from using the props at the moment. But I'm sure that clever creators are going to, you know, put them together and use them a bit better. But when it comes to the best tracks in the game for proper racing, I do think that it's going to be a bit of a mix. Some tracks tracks that have some parts of it in on the roads, on the regular roads that we used to. Some tracks that where parts of it are in the air, and with proper the new tracks that we have, the new track props that we have. I think a mix of that is going to be required to make the best tracks, and that's what I'm going to try to do with mine. Just go back and improve what's already there. Keep the base of the layout of my circuits, but try to make them a better racing experience overall, using the new props and also using some more advanced techniques using old props. I think that's the best way to go with it, rather than just shoving everything up into the air and making tracks that way, because they all just feel the same and nothing special about them. Time will tell though. We've got to give this some time, and we've got to allow people to experiment and get creative with it, and we'll see what comes up with it in the future. Obviously we're going to have a lot of awful stuff to go through first. You know, if you thought it was bad beforehand with the creator, and you could join a random job and you end up in somebody's random created race that checkpoints are all over the place and you don't know where you're going, and there's jumps that you can't do, and you know, just very badly created circuits, that's going to be tenfold now. There's going to be so many more of that, but hopefully we'll be able to sift through those and get the best as time goes on, and hopefully I'll be able to showcase those as well. But we're certainly not going to be seeing anything, in my opinion, in these first couple of weeks. It's going to take a lot longer for people to get used to it and develop some proper techniques. But if anything, I think I'm more excited for proper stunt tracks, you know, like better versions of what Rockstar have already created, because it's going to be interesting to see what people can do with all of the props. Obviously, proper racing circuits, they have a certain style, and everybody knows what sort of thing that you want from a proper racing circuit, but the idea of stunt circuits with the tubes and everything, it's going to open up a lot more creativity from people, I think, than just trying to create proper racing circuits using the new props. And I'm really interested to see what people come up with and what become the more played tracks and the most liked tracks when it comes to stunt racing, whether there'll be some that are really difficult just to finish, things like that. I'm really looking forward to seeing how creative people can be with this, and that's what's got me most excited. Although I may not spend so much time in the creator doing this sort of stuff, I'm really looking forward to seeing what other people do, and it's a fantastic addition to the game, the content creator, and this upgrade to the content creator, assuming that any bugs are fixed. It's a fantastic addition to the game that will give it a lot more life going forward as well. So those are my thoughts on pretty much the creator and everything else to do with the DLC. Hopefully I haven't missed anything. If I have, feel free to let me know, but let me know all your thoughts on specifically the content creator as well down below. I'm really interested to hear, as I always am, and I always read all comments. Thank you so much for the support, guys, recently. I really do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.